Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have an amazing show lined up. But before we get started, I do want to offer my thoughts and prayers for everyone affected by the flooding in Texas. I know the Red Cross is looking for donations specifically for Texas, and they're asking if you live locally within that community, if you can reach out to some of the local resources to see how you can help right there. So let's talk about our show today. We have just an inspirational show coming up. Our first guest is none other than Justin Osmond, and he has led an extraordinary life and found himself learning vital lessons from his unique circumstances. Now, Justin grew up with 90% hearing loss, which is hard for anyone. But then imagine being the son of Merrill Osmond, the lead singer of the world-renowned Osmond Family, making deafness an even bigger challenge for him. So Justin's here today to talk to us about not just his book, but his story, Hearing with My Heart. So let's welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you, Marianne. It's an honor to be on the show with you and to be able to help inspire and to be able to exchange some great thoughts and ideas. And so thank you. Good to be on the show with you.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. I mean, I heard your story and been listening to the different speeches that you've given and, you know, your book as well. And I am just, man, what a heartfelt story. What an amazing individual you are. You're such an inspiration to so many people.
Thank you, Marianne. I try to make a difference and to help where I can. And, you know, someone gave me a chance. Someone gave me an opportunity to be able to hear with conviction, to be able to speak with passion, despite my profound hearing loss. And so this is just my little way, my small way of paying it forward and try to help provide a little bit of hope for those that may be struggling along the way. And so thank you. I hope this book can hopefully give a little bit of hope or a little bit of encouragement and support and motivation or whatever that is that people may be looking for whatever particular challenge that they may be facing.
Well, and I'm going to touch on this briefly. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this one portion because in your own right, you're just such a remarkable individual. Your dad's Merrill Osmond. He's the lead singer of the Osmonds, and that's why if people see this name, they're probably like, "Oh, I recognize that name." You know? And I remember the Osmonds growing up, so I'm like, "Hey, that's great." And so, but the family got started, you know, in show business, and I thought it would be a great story to share because of hearing loss.
You're right, Marianne. It's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people don't know this about the Osmond family. I mean, they know that they're entertainers and songwriters and, you know, been in the entertainment industry. But the thing that a lot of people don't know is how the Osmonds really got started in show business. And if it's okay, let me just share real quickly the story. My grandmother, Olive Osmond, the matriarch of our family, her two oldest boys were both born with a very severe, profound hearing loss. And her doctor at that time told her not to have any more children because he said that all the children would have a hearing loss. And
oh, my goodness.
Thank goodness. I know. Thank goodness, you know, my grandmother didn't listen, and she had 7 more children, and, of course, 9 children altogether. But it goes on, and, you know, they lived on a small little dairy farm up in Ogden, Utah. And as you know, hearing aids are not very cheap. They're pretty expensive, and they did not have any money to buy good hearing devices for their 2 deaf brothers. So what they did is they started singing and started doing barbershop music at a very young age. And this is my dad, this is Alan Wayne, my dad, and Jay. And they went out and they started performing and singing in little county fairs there and there to raise money so that they could buy and purchase a new set of hearing aids for their two deaf brothers. And that's really, really why, how the Osmond brothers got started, and was to help raise money for the two deaf brothers. And then, to take the story even a little bit further, my grandmother, Olive, she started a charity called the Osmond Foundation, and that was primarily set up to help her two deaf boys who were never part of the musical group because they couldn't hear, and to provide resources and material and content to help not only her two deaf boys but other deaf children out there. And then this charity, the Osmond Foundation, grew, and it's now known today as the Children's Miracle Network, the CMN hospitals that you might have heard. And so my that's how that came about. But that's how the Osmond family got started, was they started singing and performing to raise money to provide hearing aids for the two deaf brothers. Isn't that cool?
It's such a great story of, how such an amazing and such talented people came together. They saw an issue and they're like, "Hey, we can fix this." It's what family does,
Yeah, well, thank you. You're right. Every family has their challenges, and our family we're not exempt from that. But we stick together, and we're all about family and staying together and putting each other's lives first, and just being there for each other,
Yeah. Well, and, I just think it's so amazing. So you grew up with 90% hearing loss, but that hasn't slowed you down one bit. I mean, you're probably one of the most highly educated individuals out there, and you also are a musician in your own right.
Well, sometimes I wonder what my IQ is. But,
I think it's pretty high.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Just a little background on myself. When I was born, like you said, with a profound hearing loss, 90% hearing loss, but I wasn't diagnosed, or they didn't find out that I had a very significant hearing loss until I was almost 2 years old. So if you can just imagine, for almost 2 years, I lived in a world void of sound. No music, no sound, no nothing. And for me, I thought that was normal. I thought that was just part of my life. And then all of a sudden, one day, I was out in the backyard playing with my brothers, and my mom comes out and says, "All right, guys, come on in. It's time for lunch." And both my brothers turned and went, and I just kept playing in the sandbox, playing with my little tractor, and I never responded. And that's when my mom realized that there was something wrong with my hearing, because back in that day, they didn't have the newborn screening like we have today.
Yeah.
So to think about it, for 2 years, that's basically I'm 2 years behind my peers. And so my parents, bless their hearts, they put me in an intense speech therapy, listening therapy, comprehension therapy to help try to catch up with all of my peers. And so I did a lot of reading, and you might even recognize my voice. I do have somewhat of a deaf accent. It was so hard for me growing up with that, but you know what? It's who I am. It's part of who I am. It's my signature. It's my brand. I don't need to sound like Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber. I want to sound like Justin Osmond. That's me. That's who I am. I may not have a voice like my dad or have the golden throat like Donnie and Marie, but you know what? I work so hard to learn how to speak, learn how to talk, and learn to hear and communicate and whatnot, and to be able to have a conversation like we are right now. And so, again, someone helped me get to that point. I still feel like I'm still catching up. But
well, I think you're doing it is fabulous, and you're such an inspiration for people who are maybe have hearing loss and they're like, "Gosh, there's no hope." I have some friends that their children are going through speech therapy, and also friends that have hearing loss as well, and so it's something that affects a lot of people.
Yes, it's so true. And, sometimes you just have to, you get knocked down, you get knocked out of the saddle, you've got to get back in. You've got to get back on and keep going. You've got to have that persistence, that resilience. And my parents taught me a lot about that. And for example, you mentioned that, I got into music. And, even though I don't quite have that golden throat like my family does when it comes to singing, I've always been intrigued by musical instruments, especially the violin. So I've always wanted to play the violin, but even though I had professionals and even doctors tell me right in my face that I could never play a musical instrument because of my profound hearing loss, well, whenever someone tells me that I can't do something, man, that just ignites a fire within me like no other. And I love to prove them wrong. But one day, I'll never forget, I was practicing my violin one morning, and I was struggling. I was really having a hard time trying to hear, get the right notes, and my intonation is just completely off. And I remember my brother in one room playing the piano, my other brother in the other room playing the cello, and here I am. I'm trying to concentrate and hear myself. I got so frustrated. I remember I turned my hearing aids off, and so that gets rid of, me having to hear my siblings play their instruments, and I was completely quiet. And I experimented, and what I'm about to tell you absolutely changed my life. I put the violin next to my chin, underneath between my shoulder and my chin, and I started to play, and oh my goodness, I could not believe it. I could actually hear every note I was playing through the conductive vibration that sent the sound to my brain. And so I learned eventually how to play the violin and the viola, not by hearing it, but by feeling it. And so that's how I learned to play the violin.
My goodness.
So whenever, I felt like I had every excuse in the world not to play a musical instrument. Hello, I'm deaf, I'm hard of hearing. But when you really want something bad enough to go out there and fight for it, to work day and night for it, and to give up time and sleep for it, I really believe that anybody and everybody can really truly achieve what you really truly are passionate about, and you can accomplish it.
Well, and it shows, and it's easy to see why so many companies have you as their keynote speaker, where you come in and you talk to people about turning their weaknesses into strengths, and why you've mentored some of our top celebrities that we have. I mean, it's easy to see why you do that.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel like I'm just an ordinary guy from an extraordinary family, an extraordinary background, if you will. But I believe that every one of us can be extraordinary in our own little way. Just because I come from a musical family doesn't mean that that's my end. I wanted to kind of blaze my own trail. I wanted to be able to go out there and say, hey, I can do this, I can create my own freedom from fear and limitations that are set on me, and to be able to help discover my own strength. Like you said, I know we all have weaknesses, but I really believe that we can make them our own strength and some of our greatest blessings in life. And I know we all have, we can create good habits, bad habits. I could go on and on about that, but the main thing is to truly be able to realize that we all have value. We all have amazing value and worth to ourselves. Once we recognize that, the sky is the limit. I remember, I had a really hard time fitting in, self-identity, self-acceptance, trying to feel included. I felt isolated and lonely, all that. I was bullied when I was a young kid. I looked different. I had big hardware devices coming out of my ears and cords coming out of my ears and attached to my belt. And I kind of looked like a robot. I kind of stood out, and people made fun of me, and it was really difficult. And I'm making myself very vulnerable as I say this, but I just want people to know that you're not alone, and and in my case, it's not a lack of hearing, it's a lack of hope that people need. And in other people, it's not a lack of a challenge that they may be going through. It's usually a lack of hope. But once you can restore that perfect brightness of hope in people's lives, that's where you can really truly get on your feet, get back in the saddle, and go after your greatest dreams and aspirations in life.
Well, it's easy to see that you have blazed your own trail, and it's bright, let me tell you. I mean, it's your story, who it is that you are as an individual. All of that is just, I think, really serves as hope for a lot of people that look at their own story and go, I don't think I can do it. I've got kids or what have you. And so you really help give a lot of hope to people who might otherwise go, gosh, I don't know how I'm going to make how to even rise above all of this. And I applaud you for that. I really think that, your story is one that everyone should be familiar with, without a doubt.
Thank you, Marianne. I believe everybody has an amazing story. They really do. And, I love hearing other people's stories, and because it gives me the strength and the hope I need and the courage to overcome and to climb the mountain that we all need to climb. And one thing I would love to share is, and it's really helped me to get over these hurdles, if you will, is my personal motto. I may have a hearing loss, but that hearing loss does not have me. And that applies to anybody with any particular challenge. They may have a particular challenge, but don't let that challenge have you. And just recently, it was a complete surprise, but I was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And it was really hard for me to take because I live a very active lifestyle, and so that's why it was so difficult to accept. But now I've added that to my motto, and now I may have diabetes, but that diabetes does not have me. And I'm currently training for an Ironman, and that's not going to stop me from wanting to continue to go out there and reach my dreams and my aspirations in life. And so I have a joke in my family. Now I tell everybody that I have ADD. I'm attention, deaf, and diabetic.
Oh, no. I had ADD as a kid, so but it was a different kind.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness. Well, and gosh, okay, so we'll come back. I wanted to talk about the fund that you have, but since you touched on all this running that you're doing, let's start there first. So not long ago, you ran 250 miles in 7 days to raise money for children who needed hearing aids. How did this even come about? How did you decide, hey, I'm gonna go do this?
Oh man, I tell you, every time I think about it, I look back and I cannot believe I did that. Who in their right mind would even do something like that, right?
That's like back-to-back marathons, So
it is. It's about 10 marathons back-to-back, and you're right, in 7 days straight. So it was about 35 to 40 miles a day to get to that finish line. The hardest part was getting up every single morning. But really, how it all really got started, Marianne, was I was just running one morning, just running a normal 1 or 2 miles. And with the charity I have, I'm always trying to think of ways on how I can give back, how I can help my deaf brothers and sisters out there, who may be struggling out there. What can I do to help with that? And so I just came back with this idea and this thought. I remember running into the house. I told my wife, oh my goodness, I would love to run across the whole state of Utah. What do you think about that? And I'll raise an awareness in the month of May, which is Better Hearing Month, and I could raise some money to help some deaf children. What do you think about that, sweetheart? And totally did not approve. She was like, absolutely not. You will hurt yourself. And I said, oh, come on, sweetheart. I'll make a deal with you. I'll put together a 10-month training schedule, and in 6 months' time, if I'm looking good. I'm not hurt yet, and I haven't broken any tendons or anything like that. Would you consider? And she said, okay, I'll consider it. And so I couldn't even find a program online on the internet. There were Ironman training schedules, there were ultra marathons, 100-milers, but I could not find a 250-mile training program. So I had to kind of create it on my own, and it was intense. I just slowly worked my way up every single week. I was running in rain and hail and snow, but I was so focused. Oh, and by the way, I contacted Southern Utah school district down there, and I told them what I was doing. And I said, do you have any children in your school that need some hearing help? And they said, yeah, we actually have 25 deaf children that need new hearing aids. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, that's perfect. I'll run 250 miles to help 25 deaf children, and I'll raise the money if I can to help every one of them if possible. So started the training program, started raising some awareness, and I didn't really want to be in the spotlight. I wanted the kids to be in the spotlight. It was all about them and their story. And anyway, started this amazing journey. And I'll tell you, Marianne, without telling you the whole long version of it, I could tell you so many stories, but it was by far the most difficult, the most heart-wrenching experience I have ever been through up to this point in my life. But on the other hand, it was one of the most rewarding, self-fulfilling experiences I have ever experienced. And I was able to raise, thanks to all of my wonderful sponsors and donors and people that helped contribute, we were able to raise enough money to help 25 deaf children with brand new hearing aids. It was so cool. Just running past that finish line was probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But remind me to never do that again.
Yeah, I used to run cross country, but 250 miles, my goodness, that's quite a feat. Oh my goodness. Well, and so, so you did this, was this part of, because I know you founded the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund. Was this part of the fundraiser you did in conjunction with that, or was it separate?
Yep, that's what it was. I ran, and I finished, and the way I set it up was I ran past the finish line on my grandmother's birthday. And so, yes, Olive Osmond is my sweet grandmother, and we were very, very close because, first of all, I was her favorite grandchild. But also, I'm the only one in the second generation of the Osmond family that was born with a hearing loss. And so there was an immediate connection with my grandmother because, remember, she started this charity called the Osmond Foundation to promote hearing health awareness for her two deaf boys. And so even though that went on to become the Children's Miracle Network, deep down inside, she had such a strong love and compassion for the deaf community. So when my sweet grandmother passed away, I started the charity in honor of my grandmother, Olive Osmond, to help carry her dream and her legacy to continue to help the deaf children around the world. And so, yes, this run, I did it in honor of my grandmother, in honor of the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund, as we were able to help those 25 deaf kids. And so, yeah, that was part of the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund.
So, with the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund, what do you guys have coming up next? Let's say if someone's listening to this and they're like, gosh, I want to get involved. I want to donate. I want to see more of this in my community. How can they connect with you with the Olive Osmond Hearing Fund?
Thank you. Great question. One thing that we do is we take in salvage hearing aids. So, for example, let's say someone out there has a hearing aid that's maybe broken or obsolete, whatever the case may be, but they no longer need it. And people sometimes don't know what to do. They either throw them away or whatever, but we can take them. The Olive Osmond Hearing Fund will take any hearing aid, whether any brand, any model, we'll take it, and the donor will actually get a tax write-off. It'll be considered a donation. We will give them a tax-exempt thank you letter so they can use for the taxes, for the tax write-off. And then we take these hearing aids and we basically recycle them. We can recondition them so that we can reuse them again to help other deaf children. So that's a thing that we love doing. We can take these hearing aids and we'll definitely put them into good use and give them to somebody that could definitely use them. So that's one thing that people can get involved. But our website, hearingfund.org, you can go there and learn more about our programs, how they can get involved. Every now and then we go on a hearing humanitarian mission. And sometimes we partner with the Lions Club and the Starkey Hearing Foundation. We have some great partnerships out there. And the Oticon Hearing Foundation, we partnered with them as well. In fact, they helped me with my big run, with my 250-mile run. So you can go to the website and see there's lots of great opportunity to be able to participate.
I just think that what you're doing is just amazing, and I love the light that you're bringing to the world and just helping as many people as you can with hearing loss, and also the inspiration that you bring to the rest of us ADDs, you know?
Well, hey, I need all the help I can get, too. So thank you for inspiring me and everybody that's listening on your show. So thank you.
Oh, well, and so I know that companies, major companies hire you, and I kind of want to touch on this again because I think these topics are just amazing. They hire you to come out and speak and deliver keynote speeches that, really inspire their employees. What are some of the topics that you speak on?
Good question. So one of the things I love to talk about is freedom from our fears. We all have those fears, right? But I talk about how we can master those and how we can disintegrate and overcome our fears from self-doubt and our limitations. I think we tend to do that to ourselves a lot, whether in the workforce, whether in our personal lives, whether at school and academics. We need to be able to rise above that. So I can share stories and experiences about that and how we can do that. But I also talk a lot about how there's a solution, how we can discover our strengths. Sometimes we need to realize that we have incredible gifts and talents and skill sets that we all possess. It just needs to come out in the open. And how we can unleash, the genius that's within us. Sometimes so many people are labeled with a particular sticker, and it basically limits ourselves from going out there and reaching our greatest dreams and our aspirations in life. I love to take people on a roller coaster ride through highs and lows and through the emotions of fear and frustration and loss and despair to humor, even triumph and glory. I take people on a roller coaster ride and let them know that they're not alone, and that we, instead of making life an intermission, putting our life on hold and not trying to keep the past holding us hostage, but to make life a mission and to be proactive and not to be reactive, but to really go out there and make dust for our own life. And like you said, to blaze that trail in our own individual life, because everybody has something that they can offer to make this world a better place to live. I talk a lot about how we can change our habits, and how we can, because motivation is what gets us started, but it's good, strong, healthy habits that keeps us going. And then that turns into a lifestyle. Whether it's the bad habit turns us into a bad lifestyle, or a good lifestyle. It all depends on those habits. But so it's not always motivation that gets you going, although those things help. But we have to create good, not just habits, but also good standards on that. And then, of course, just how we can overcome our challenges and our adversity and turn them into strength and our greatest blessing. But the key, though, really is to tell people that we all have challenges. There's nothing we can do about that. But the secret is to not let those challenges have us.
Those are words to live by, without a doubt, because it's easy, to really kind of see the challenge and then go, gosh, this is so much, or, whatever it could be. It could be poverty, it could be loss of hearing, it could be low self-esteem, whatever it is, whatever's going on with somebody, it could be, it's something that they can work through, and your story is quite an inspiration. And again, like I said, it provides such a great deal of hope. Now, if companies are looking to connect with you, to hire you for one of these keynote speeches, where would they go?
Well, I think the first place they should go is go to JustinOsmond.com. Just go to my website, JustinOsmond.com. And all my information is in there, how to contact me, and would love to hear from them. Would love to come and come to their corporate event and be able to share my life story and how we can apply it into their work setting, and how they can apply it with their employees and their everyday struggles. But yes, would love to come and speak to anyone out there, be able to come together and how we can collaborate our efforts and make this a win-win for everybody involved, and how we can take their particular mission statement, take it to another whole new level, etc. But yes, I invite you to go to JustinOsmond.com, and hopefully I'll see you at your next event.
Well, and I think any company, especially the Fortune 500 companies, where they're looking to promote in a different way to reach all their employees. I mean, I've been parts of huge sales staffs before. Having speakers like you come in and talk really makes the difference between having a successful organization and having one where people are struggling. And so I can't stress high enough having you come out and speak on any of these topics and move, just move people forward, allow them to gain hope again, get that inspiration, feel that confidence, and move forward. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you and Christy are now proud parents.
Oh my goodness, Marianne, it's probably the most, pride and joy of our lives. These two little girls, we've been trying to get our family started for quite some time. And that's another challenge that we've been facing. My sweetheart, bless her heart, has been through almost 15 miscarriages. And so we went the whole fertility route. Yeah. And nothing happened there. And so we opened up to the idea of adoption. And oh my goodness, Marianne, it was one of the sweetest, most blissful, joyous events of my life when we were able to adopt these two beautiful little girls. And I love being a dad. I've always wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be part of the dad club, and so yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And that's another great story. Is for people out there that may not are struggling trying to get a family started. We waited for a long, long time to get our family started, and just stay at it. Keep that hope burning alive. And I believe that there's always a way. When there's a will, there's always a way. And of course, we give God the credit for letting that happen in our lives. So yes, I am the proud dad of two beautiful little girls. So thank you.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes we make plans and God has something better in store for us. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened here with these two beautiful, daughters of yours. And thank goodness you recently ran 250 miles, because now you can keep up with them.
Oh my goodness. No, I cannot keep up with them. That's the thing. They have so much energy. They're just 10 months old right now, and man, they definitely keep me in shape.
Well, I can't think of a better person, and these kids, these two lovely little girls are going to have such a head start in life having you and Christy as their parents, and I think that's so amazing. So I'm just looking forward to hearing more of their story as well, and how life progresses with everybody over there, because I'm sure it's going to be a fun one.
It is. It's This house used to be very quiet, but it is no longer quiet. Unless I want to turn my hearing aids off, then it's quiet.
Well, you kind of have the advantage there then, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. You're just your whole family's amazing. You and Christy and the girls and your extended family there. But, thank you so much, Justin, for taking the time to be with us here today.
Oh my goodness, Marianne, like I said, it was an honor to be with you on your show. So thank you for all you do and all the lives you're touching and making a difference with. And so thank you. It was great to be on the show with you, Marianne.
Oh, well, you just made my day. And gosh, we're going to keep up with all the great things you're doing. I know you have a couple books that are going to be released in the near future and also a podcast. I'm watching for those because I'm going to be following all of your guys' great stuff. I highly suggest our listeners also go and pick up your book, Hearing with My Heart, and also join your community, which can be done on JustinOsmond.com. We're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
This is Jennifer McGill. My highly anticipated new album, Unbreakable, is now available at jennifermcgill.com. Everything from power ballads to high-energy jam-out-in-your-car songs. I used my highest joys and deepest pains to create empowering songs of love, strength, healing, and restoration so that you can be unbreakable too. Get your copy of Unbreakable today from jennifermcgill.com. Because who doesn't want to be unbreakable?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I am so delighted to be introducing our next guest, Lauren Lipton. And Lauren has just written a book called Yoga Bodies, Real People, Real Stories, and the Power of Transformation. So Lauren is a yoga devotee and an award-winning journalist who covers wellness, styles, and trends. And her work has appeared in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Allure, Town and Country, among many other publications. So let's welcome to the show, Lauren.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. Now, gosh, you just created Yoga Bodies, which is, I just was so impressed with the book. I mean, you've got everybody of every body type, even a canine in there, doing some great yoga poses.
Yes, so the idea for the book is it's a series of photographic portraits of people, about 80 different people and creatures, in various yoga poses, and the people and creatures are of all different ages and shapes and sizes and abilities. So the idea is to illustrate that yoga is for everyone. Anyone can do it. And we have stories to go along with those poses from each of the yogis.
Well, and I so appreciate that because every person you look at with every pose they're doing has that little story that goes with it. So I've got to ask you, what inspired you to create this book?
Well, I've been doing yoga for about 7 years, and it really has changed my life in a variety of ways. And when people they kind of fall down this rabbit hole of yoga, and they find, when people really get into it, not everybody does, but when people do, they find themselves wanting to evangelize about yoga to everyone they meet, which can be really tiresome for those that they meet, right? Nobody wants to be evangelized to. So at that point, a lot of people, not a lot, but some people decide they want to be yoga teachers, and they quit their job and, go off to be a yoga teacher. And I thought that I could use my existing job to preach the gospel of yoga to those who wish to hear it as a writer. So that's what I did. I believe that if everyone did yoga, the world would actually be a better place for real, not in a pie-in-the-sky way, but in a measurable way.
I agree with you. I mean, I do yoga. I've been doing it for years, and it makes such a difference on just that inner connection that you have and the connection you have with others.
I agree. I think it's like a little vacation that you get every day. Like, you come back from vacation and you just feel good and you're polite. There's no road rage. You're just fine, for a few days. And then reality, right? And then you're back to where you were. But yoga is like a mini vacation every single time you do it. And if you do it regularly, a couple times a week, 3 times a week, you can carry that vacation feeling with you, around with you off your mat, which I think is great. Love it.
Well, and, I have to applaud you as well for the way that you put the book together, because a lot of times when people think of yoga, they think of a couple things. They think that, we have to be like this Buddha master that's going to be sitting on a lotus flower, doing perfect poses all the time, and that this person's, that's doing the yoga, they're only one body type. They're really super thin, and they're always gorgeous people, and it's not quite the case when you go into the yoga studio.
Right, exactly. I wanted to do a book that reflected what I see in my very large New York studio where I do yoga, as opposed to the very narrow, I call it an ungenerous view of yoga that we see on Instagram and on the covers of some yoga magazines. It really, you're exactly right. It's either like a Swami who's levitating or super skinny, really young girl in a bikini doing some contortion on the beach somewhere. Those are yoga. I mean, those people are, doing yoga in their own way, but that doesn't mean that a 91-year-old grandmother who's in the book isn't doing yoga when she's doing her poses.
Yeah, or maybe someone that doesn't fall within that body type,
Yeah.
Well, because there's kind of a stigma sometimes where it's like you have to be super thin to do yoga. And every time I go and practice yoga, I mean, there's every body type you can imagine in there.
And nobody's judging. That's the beauty of yoga too. Yes, you absolutely, yes, of course, you can have a very much larger body and do yoga. You may not be able to do every single pose, but you actually may. There are a lot of people who are, a lot of larger body people who are extraordinarily talented at yoga. So, I guess I like when I go into a studio and there's no one looking at you, or there shouldn't be. And if there is, you're in the wrong studio, right?
Yeah.
But there's no one judging you for your body. There's no one rolling your eyes at your outfit. You're just yourself on your mat in this community of other people who are all doing something for themselves.
Well, and it's I just love the whole practice. I love being able to get in the poses and see how far my body can go each time I do a different pose. And, with some people are very advanced and can do some really great poses, and that's awesome. And other people are just beginning, and that's great. It's like everyone's on their journey,
All good. It's funny. One of the things I learned, which I like to tell people when I talk to them, is that, and I didn't know this. I mean, I've been doing yoga for 7 years, and I had even though I've done a lot of yoga, I had some preconceived notions of what I would find when I was interviewing these 80 different people and looking at their yoga practices. And one thing that really surprised me was the more advanced. I spoke with some really advanced yogis, and they're people who have been doing yoga for 50 years. And some brand new people and some people who've been doing it forever. And almost 2-1, the longer the person had been practicing yoga and the quote unquote better they were, the more they didn't want to do anything flashy in their photo. They just wanted to sit. Like one man is just sitting in sort of a lotus position. There's a woman who's lying in Shavasana, which of course is the final resting pose where you literally just lie on the ground and do nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think it's something about like the more advanced you become, the less you have to prove, I guess, to yourself or others. And, and the more beginning you are, like me, I want to do all those crazy poses. That's like, I'm excited about that. I don't know what kind of yoga you practice. Are you doing those crazy arm balances and things? And
I've done some different ones over the years. I was doing some inverted poses a while back, and then I had an injury, so I've kind of backed off from that. And so it's nice to be able to do some of the different poses and do some of the crazy ones, but, without
wrecking yourself.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Years ago I had one of the yoga teachers I had. She was amazing. She brought in a human skeleton, like a hip bones. And there are always some people who are going, well, why can't I extend my practice a certain way? It's because of how their bones are shaped that they'll never physically be able to do some poses that other people can easily get into. So it's just interesting to see where we can take, where those boundaries are and how far we can take it.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the physical practice. Then there's the whole mental side of it, which is probably, even more important, probably, I think. Where you just learn to stop judging yourself, right? I mean, you're just like, okay, I can't do that today, but maybe I can do it tomorrow, or maybe I'll never be able to do it, and who cares, right? It's so lovely. It's such a nice
Or maybe I'll just do child pose and lay on the floor.
Yeah, which I've done. Sometimes I'm just like, if I can get through this class without actually passing out, and I'm just lying here for an hour, then I've succeeded. So I've done that a couple of times in my life, It's great.
So how did you pick all these fabulous people to be in your book?
Well, I started out when I was thinking about the book. Remember that my whole goal was to get everybody to do yoga. So you think about people, and you obviously like it, so you think about someone you meet, and you say, oh, you should try yoga, and they will say whatever, right? They'll say, I can't do yoga because I'm too old, or I'm too big, or I'm not physically fit, or I'm not flexible. That's a big one, right? Mm-hmm. Or some people will say, I can't do yoga because it goes against my religion, or I don't like chanting, or I don't want to wear tight pants, like whatever. There's a million reasons why a lot of preconceptions which people have, which makes sense because of the way yoga is portrayed. So when I thought of this as a casting process, and when I was casting the people to be in the book, I tried to find one person that illustrated every single excuse I could possibly think of why someone would say they cannot do yoga. So I have some, people who are 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. I have people who have disabilities, both physical and, seen and unseen. I have a blind man doing yoga. I have a 91-year-old grandmother doing yoga. A baby, like a little baby. I don't think the baby really thought he could not do yoga. I think he was fully ready to do yoga and did it. It's funny. So I just try to get every excuse. I have a Christian, an evangelical Christian who does yoga. And so that's how I went about doing it. I just tried to find someone who fit the excuse.
Well, and I have to say, like, Shane, he got the downward forward bend to a T.
That baby?
Yes. It was like, wow, if we could all do it that way.
He has his head on the ground. That was what I thought was amazing. He just folded from the waist and put his little baby head on the ground. It was so cute.
Yeah, I mean, and then you also have Sunny the dog, who is doing a very good version of downward facing dog.
Yes. which we, every time, if you have dogs and you see them do that, they do this pose, downward facing dog, and you see them do it, and then they do upward facing dog, right? And I really wanted to show that. I really wanted to find a dog who would do downward facing dog. And we actually had to train that dog especially to do that pose. She could do it because it's a natural pose for dogs. It's like a forward stretch kind of pose for those who don't know. But it is one thing to have a dog do that when the dog gets up from his or her nap. And it's quite another to have the dog do it on a set, on command, right? and do it on cue, so that way the photographers can capture it. Yeah. Right. In the window with the light, with all of her fur perfectly placed. So we did actually get, that dog belonged to the sister of my photographer. And the sister, Jill, had her dog trainer train the dog to do that pose on command. So I felt like that was a real victory for, for the book.
Well, and I also understand you have some yoga unicorns in here. So I'd love for you to explain to our audience what that means.
The unicorns. That's funny. Yes, there are some people, it is very, very difficult to find people who have certain kinds of people who do yoga would live in New York where I live and would be willing to be photographed. And so it is difficult. I mean, there are many, many people who do yoga who are in wheelchairs, for example, but not everyone can physically get to my studio, So I wanted a yogi in a wheelchair. He was one of my unicorns. He's a wonderful yogi. There's a woman, I wanted to show an amputee, doing yoga, and I found this woman named Marcia Danzig, who's a tremendous yogi. Also, she lost her leg, so she's a one-legged yogi and is doing an incredible balancing pose on one leg. And, you don't run across that kind of person every day. So she was a unicorn. Yeah. And those were people who I sometimes, I would spend, I flew Marcia out here from Ohio. I would sort of go to extra effort to track those people down. Let's see, the other unicorn is a woman named Jessamine Stanley, who's quite a famous yogi, actually. She's a plus-size yogi, and she is phenomenal. She can do amazing things that I can't do, and she has a beautiful body, and she was a wonderful subject also.
Now, does Victor fall into that category as well? And for our listeners that can't actually see the book, because you actually need to go out and buy your own Yoga Bodies. You got to get your own book. But he is doing a headstand with just his head.
Right. He's doing, that one blew my mind. He's doing a headstand where his hands are off the ground. He's simply bouncing on his head straight up in the air. Yeah, that actually was, I didn't know he could do that. He just said, "Hey, you want me to try this thing?" Okay. And that was actually that's one of those moments where you capture this thing. It's a very obviously incredibly hard pose to hold for very long. And everything was perfect. The light was right and his face is serene and he's got just on his head, and we captured that, and that was like a high fives all around, like jumping up and down, screaming excitedly kind of moment for all of us, I have to say. That's just a fantastic photo. Yeah, he's a unicorn too, I think.
Now, was there anything that you weren't really expecting that you kind of learned through this entire process?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting, I guess I should have expected this, but I found that some of the most traditionally beautiful, quote unquote, beautiful people in the book, particularly women, the ones who meet that stereotype of being beautiful and blonde and skinny, and, those were the women who had the most body image issues. It was really interesting. That were the most anxious and the most worried about how they looked all the time. Not while they were being photographed, but just in their life. And some of the people that were the most comfortable with their bodies were actually the people who had weight, extra weight on them that they freely admitted. And they're like, but I still love myself. I'm fine with it, and I thought it was lovely. I felt sort of bad for the women who were so worried about exactly how they looked all the time, and hoped for a little more peace for them. I hope they could find some more peace on their mat.
It sounds like it's just a journey throughout, regardless, where people are. Because everyone's got something. If it's how we look or weight or, it could be, something emotional or who knows. But it's so interesting how people would have that as something that they would be concerned about, through this, especially because you look at them and you're like, oh, they're perfect, no problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess that must be hard to live up to all the time, to live up to your own image that you see of yourself sometimes in a photo. You think, wow, I look fantastic. But I don't look like that in real life or whatever. I don't know. I mean, yoga helps them, though. They really are, they're better because of the yoga. Actually, the other thing that I found that was both, it was sort of sad, but also heartening in an odd way that I personally suffer from anxiety. And yoga really helps me with that. It does not cure it, but it really helps. And I had no idea how many people struggle with anxiety. I mean, it could be that those people are drawn to yoga because yoga really does help calm you a little bit. But so many people I spoke with for this book have serious anxiety issues. So that's pretty amazing too, I think, that we're all walking around feeling on edge all the time.
but it's so great to have something that we can be done about it, and for someone who's new to yoga, I mean, picking up your book and just turning to any page, it's like, wow, some of these poses look like they'd be hard, but you're seeing all sorts of people doing them, and there are things that someone can progress up to. It doesn't have to be like, especially Victor's pose. I don't know if that's ever going to happen in my lifetime.
That's not in my lifetime either. That's not happening. Like that, yeah.
Yeah, some of those are just to be viewed, but it's so encouraging for people to be able to look at this and go, gosh, I think I can get into this. And, I'm feeling a little stressed or a little anxious, and I'm hearing that this will help reduce some of that. I might give it a go.
I think one thing that might be valuable too is to explain how that happens. Like I'm not sure people understand. I didn't understand. Like, how does doing these poses make you more calm? Right? And the answer is that, it's not so much the poses. You can actually yoga, as you know. I mean, yoga could be sitting on a chair, raising your arms up and down in a rhythmic fashion for half an hour or 5 minutes or whatever, or 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be anything that's particularly strenuous. But the relaxation element of it comes in that you are practicing, doesn't always work, but you're practicing keeping your mind on what you're doing and not letting it wander all over the place. And the way the poses figure into that for me is that if I'm doing something complicated that takes some balance, right? Or like if you're standing on one leg, you have to think about, move this way, move that way. And your mind really is only on your pose because you can't not be thinking about staying upright. And I find that after doing that for an hour, again, it's like that mini vacation feeling. I've forgotten about all the dumb things I have to do and all the the grocery list and the stupid thing I said 3 years ago that I'm still harping over or whatever, right? And so that's actually the benefit of yoga. That's how it works. At least that's how it works for me.
Yeah, no, hey, I get it. When I'm doing warrior pose and, they're balancing, it's like, okay, I'm so focused on keeping my balance and staying in that present moment. I think it really does bring people in, into the present moment and away from, like how you're saying, from all the worries, all the stresses, everything, and just focused on maintaining the pose as best they can. It's not a competition with the guy next to you.
No, not at all. Actually, and the funny thing too about warrior pose in particular, there's warrior one. I don't know which one you're talking about. There's warrior one and warrior two, right? And they're different poses. And warrior two in particular is a pose that I will just be honest, I hate. I like to stand on my head, but I hate warrior two, which is a sort of quote unquote beginning pose. It's not an easy pose, but it's one that you learn early on. And I'll be in that pose, right? And my mind is on what I'm doing, which is ow, or like, oh, my leg's tired, or my arms are tired. And what you learn in that way is, well, this is going to be over. Like, I will get through this. I don't like it, but I'll get through it, and then I'll move on to something else. And practicing that, sort of dealing with some discomfort, right? When it's not like agony. You're just like, oh, I hate this. It's so annoying, and then you're out, right? And that is also a way that I think yoga is really beneficial. You have these little moments of discomfort and you practice being okay with them.
And then you move into something else and it's like, oh, I might like this better. You know, and you can kind of test and see where your practice takes you. Mm-hmm.
And that warrior two helps you get into, getting strong enough to do that warrior two helps you do the fancier pose, right? So if you didn't do that, there's a reward at the end of that, right? Like, oh, I can now do this other thing that I like better. Then you practice that in the car when you're on the freeway and you're having like road rage or you're in traffic and you go, you know what, this is annoying and I hate it, but I'm just going to get through it. And that's just so helpful. That's why I think it would make the world better if everybody did it, because people would be, you know, more accustomed to dealing with unpleasantness, and heaven knows the world is full of unpleasantness, you know.
Yeah, and it makes it seem so like, you know, because you're right, a lot of people do get kind of focused on, oh my gosh, this is like the worst thing ever right now, you know, whatever that right now thing is. And it could be like how you're saying road rage, or maybe they don't like something that's happening, but it's just a season. It's not something that's going to be there forever. It's only, you know, and you just kind of endure it, breathe through it, and move on to the next one, you know?
Exactly. Just get through. I mean, sometimes it really is just get through it. You don't have to even like it. You don't have to, like, embrace it. You don't, right? You don't have to be okay with it. Just get through it. But luckily, I mean, most of yoga, at least, I find genuinely pleasurable, you know? It's actually there's not a lot of just get through it. It's actually really like, this is really fun. So.
Yeah, it's my time where I can kind of sometimes just melt on the mat, you know.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I like having that experience. So, and you know, when someone picks up your book, what are some of the things that you want them to walk away with? I know we've kind of covered some of them. You know, you want them to kind of, you know, the world's going to be a better place, and gosh, we need more of that right now, of course. You know, what are some of the other things you want, you know, your readers to know, and just know about the book itself and about you?
Let's see. One thing I think I'd like people to know, well, first of all, the book is not necessarily just for a person who's never done yoga. I think anyone who practices yoga will recognize themselves and certainly some of their thoughts in these varying interviews with people about little bits and pieces about their practice. I would also like people to know, I think that yoga is, it's not, you know, we're talking about it in these very earnest terms in a way, like it's so fabulous and we love it so much. It's also hilarious and sweaty and kind of sexy sometimes and kind of annoying. And, you know, it's actually, so there are a couple stories in there that are pretty amusing, I think, like the girl my friend Natalie, who like looks at her pedicure and worries about that the whole class. And then she's like, what are people thinking of my butt? Like, are people looking at my butt? Or I mean, it's actually pretty amusing. So I want people to know that it can be pretty funny. Like there's some pretty funny stories that come out of it, you know. As far as, that's a good question. What do I want people to know about me? I don't know.
It takes a real dynamic person to, you know, first of all, to even think of a book like this and then bring it to life, which is a whole nother story, you know?
That's so nice. You know, I think what I learned, well, here's something. Okay. What I learned from this is that you can, well, I've always felt this way as a journalist. I love talking to people. I mean, you obviously must too, because this is what you do, right? You talk to people and you hear the little stories. And I talk to people all day long. People come up to me. I live in Manhattan. You know, I'm on the subway. Some random person will just start talking to me about something. And I actually listen. Like, I'll actually stop and like ask them questions and interview them in a weird way, you know. And I guess this book really cemented, you know, interviewing 80 people in the course of a few, you know, let's say 2 months was a lot of interviewing. And I learned something from every single person I interviewed for this book. So I learned something from the wisest yogis. I learned something from a football player, Tony Richardson, who's an NFL guy who was in the book, and from Naomi Watts, who is also in the book, the actress. But I also learned things from people I never would have necessarily spoken to, like a salesman in Los Angeles who I wouldn't have necessarily met in my, you know, my daily life. I learned about him. And I think that the message is that everybody can teach you something.
Yeah. I think that's such a powerful message to walk away with. And when people pick up the book, and that's why I haven't wanted to go into the stories a whole lot, because we want people to pick up their own copy of Yoga Bodies and dive into it. But I mean, it definitely has something for everybody, regardless where you are in your practice, or if you're just kind of looking to get into a practice. You're like, well, I'm not sure, might be for me, might not. You know, and some of the poses these people are doing is quite phenomenal. You know?
Yeah. Don't be discouraged if you can't do everything. That would be another thing.
Oh, yeah.
Often people have told me that they've gone through the book and just tried to do every single pose, which I think is hilarious. It's like
yeah, some of these take years to, at least for me, it will take years to build up to, while some are a little bit easier. Okay, Lauren, so I got to ask you, we've got a few minutes left here. So what's next for you? You're so amazingly talented with your writing skills. What are you doing next?
That's so nice. Thank you. It's funny. So ironically, I said at the beginning of this program that when people get really into yoga, they sometimes quit their job to become a yoga teacher. And I didn't want to do that, right? Well, guess what? I'm doing the book. I'm not quitting my job, but in the book, as I was doing it, one of the teachers I talked to asked me if I would like to take her yoga teacher training, which is a 6-month training program to learn to become a yoga teacher. And I don't know what possessed me, but I said, sure. So I have become a registered yoga teacher, and I'll be teaching my first class in Connecticut in late September. And I'm really anxious about it because it's a hard job, as it turns out. But I'm looking forward to that, just for fun. And I do hope there is a Yoga Bodies, too. I'd like to do something where I want to do a pose encyclopedia where it's like a reference book for people doing, when you want to learn how to do a particular pose, but starring some of the people from the book, the current book.
Oh, I think that'd be fabulous. And there are some people that I know that you were wanting to have in this book that weren't able to make it. So hopefully
Yes.
you'll see them in Yoga Bodies too.
One hopes. You're listening to their ears.
Oh, well, we will definitely be keeping watch out for that and all the great things you do. And gosh, if anyone's in the Connecticut area, they definitely do want to connect with you and be part of your, your first yoga teaching class that you'll be doing. I think that would be just fabulous.
Well, I'll put that on my website in a few, yes. And please don't, be kind. If anybody does show up listening to this, please be kind because I'm definitely a newbie. But it's fun, so.
Isn't the rule be kind or go home? I think that's what the rule is.
That's going to be the rule, yeah. Be nice or go home, exactly. That's my rule.
Well, Lauren, and real quick, where can people connect with you so they can be part of your community and just follow all the great things that you're doing?
The best, sort of the channel to get started would be the website for the book, which is yogabodiesbook.com. And from there you can, find out what the Instagram handle is and Facebook and all that stuff. So yogabodiesbook.com.
And follow you from there. So, well, Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It was really fun.
Oh, what a joy it's been. And when Yoga Bodies 2 comes out, please let us know. We want you back. We want to hear about all the good stuff you're doing.
Well, that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.